Stay humble, eh? Arsenal thrash Manchester City at Emirates Stadium, keeping the pressure on Liverpool. It was boys against men, literally, and the cojones of Myles Lewis Skelly. We'll break down the victory, discuss a number of superb individual performances, and more on this episode of the Chronicles of a Gooner podcast. But first, a quick message from our partner. This video is brought to you by Stocks FC. Stocks FC is the football stock market where you can buy stocks in your favourite players and earn cash rewards based on their real-life performances. To get you started, they're giving away 5 free stocks to every user that signs up this month, offering you the chance to familiarise yourself with the platform. Buy stocks in young players you fancy to prove themselves and watch their stocks rise, or invest in those you see as solid performers who will maintain their value. Earn weekly dividend payments every time your players score goals, make assists and play key passes. Your free loan stocks are eligible for payouts for a month, so why not give it a go? To claim your 5 free loan stocks and begin your journey, scan the QR code on the screen or click the link in the description. I'll be taking you along on my journey throughout our upcoming videos. Join me on the ride, Stocks FC. Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to the Chronicles of a Gooner podcast with me, your host, Harry Symeou. And on this episode, we're going to look back at Arsenal 5. Yes, you heard that right. Arsenal 5, Manchester City 1. What a result. What a performance. Lots to be pleased about. Lots to be happy about. I've seen a lot of... Look, I'm going to be straight up. I've seen a lot of nonsense in the live chat already this morning from people sort of claiming that it's wrong for Arsenal fans to enjoy a victory like that. 5-1 against one of your big rivals. And you can't enjoy it. Then what the bloody hell is the point in watching or turning up to football? I don't understand. Look, we'll get into the performance. We're going to break it all down. There's a number of individuals I want to discuss who I thought were outstanding yesterday. We'll also discuss what was great about Arsenal as a collective, because I thought there were lots and lots of positives. I know it's transfer deadline day, and I know that people are going to be desperate to hear of transfer news, desperate to hear of any tiny, small, minute updates that might come about over the course of the day. Look, we are going to bring you more than one episode today. We will be back later on in the day, and we will be focused solely on what's going on or what's not in the transfer window for Arsenal. But this episode is about yesterday. This episode is about enjoying the victory yesterday, enjoying the performance that we saw, and enjoying the moment. And, you know, we're all very, very quick to criticize the club and stick the boot in when things aren't going the way that we wanted them to. And I've got to be honest, although I predicted a narrow Arsenal victory, I think in the preview show, I was going into this game extremely nervous and concerned because Manchester City had shown signs of a resurgence. Second in the Premier League form guide. I know you can look at some of the fixtures they've had, and maybe, you know, that plays into the hands of that narrative and that sort of, you know, story that says that they've turned the corner and a resurgent, etc., etc. But look, ultimately, this was a potentially very difficult game for Arsenal. And with Liverpool winning at Bournemouth, I think it really put the pressure on us. It really put the pressure on us, and we delivered. And in the past, this team and this club have been accused of sort of crumbling under pressure. So when they come through a pressure situation with such brilliance, with such comfort, you have to pay tribute to it. Like, you have to pay tribute to it. And that's what we're going to do on this episode. We'll talk transfers later. As I say, this is about the victory over Manchester City, because I think it's really, really important that we break this down and we analyze it and we give it the credit and the coverage that it deserves. In terms of the team selection, Mikel Arteta made 7 changes for Arsenal from the midweek game out in Girona. And of course, David Raya coming back into the team was the big, big story. I talked about it in the preview show. One of the big decisions was who plays at left back. And I said that I would have just gone for Riccardo Calafiori, and I was proved wrong. And I was so pleased to be proved wrong, because Myles Lewis Skelly, who we'll come on to talk about in a bit, was honestly outstanding in everything that he did. He was just brilliant. Obviously, it was Saliba and Gabriel at centre-backs, Timber at right-back, Lewis Skelly on the left, as I say. Rice, Partey and Odegaard played in midfield. Again, for me, that's Arsenal's best midfield. I've said that for some time, and I do genuinely believe that. And then it was Martinelli wide right, Trossard wide left, and Kai Havertz through the middle. Manchester City made 3 changes from the side that beat Club Brugge in midweek. Now, obviously, that was a much bigger game for Manchester City. There was a lot more riding on that, hence why they went stronger, and so there were less changes. No Ederson in goal. He was unavailable. Ortega came in. De Bruyne dropped out of the side. Marmoush came in. And there was a couple of other changes. There was one more change as well. But yeah, it was Ortega, Savinho, and Marmoush that came in for Ederson, Gundogan, and De Bruyne. There you go. That's a proper summary. But yeah, look, I talked again a lot in the preview about how we should approach this game and how tactically it was one of those where we needed to be, in my opinion, mature. And yes, we talk a lot about the high press, and we saw that work to really, really good effect right at the start of the game when Arsenal broke the deadlock, but also in other instances where Arsenal pinched the ball back and put Manchester City under immense pressure. We saw the benefits of that, but we also had to be mature enough, as I say, and switched on enough to know when the right time came to press and to understand when it was the right time to just drop off. And that's why I kept saying in the build up to this game that the approach needed to be very similar to that we saw last season at Emirates Stadium, where Arsenal did exactly what I've just described. When it was the right time, we went for them. We went for their throats. When it was the wrong time, we recognized that and we were able to sit back into that sort of slightly deeper block and soak up a little bit. And this is the thing, right? In the past, particularly during the Arsene Wenger days, not so much at the beginning, but certainly towards the end, where we became a really sort of technical team, but a team that probably didn't have the mettle necessarily to sit back and soak up pressure. We often looked at the team and thought, well, when they sit back, they just can't do it. It looks unnatural to them. It's them looking uncomfortable in their own skin. And Arsenal don't look like that anymore. Arsenal look like they're extremely comfortable when you ask them to sit back, when you ask them to soak up. And that is a real strength of this team and something that when we've not had it all our own way at the other end of the pitch, we've been able to lean on. Hence why, despite what some people would describe as a really poor season, and with all the injuries and all the refereeing calls and all the rest of it, we managed to stay in contention. It was a perfect start for Arsenal. Early goal from the press, really unselfish from Kai Havertz. I don't know if it was Kai Havertz thinking Martin Odegaard's got a much greater chance of finishing this because of a lack of confidence on the Germans' part, or if he just thought, nope, unselfish, let's do what's right for the team. But anyway, Martin Odegaard managed to find the back of the net. Took a little bit of a deflection off of John Stones, but it was on target. It was going in anyway. Didn't make a great deal of difference. But then that maturity kicked in for me. A lot of people, and I saw sort of the Sky Sports analysis when I came home, Thierry Henry was like, well, we scored the first goal and then we sort of dropped off a little bit. No. It wasn't that for me. It wasn't Arsenal flipping the mindset and saying, oh, we're going to go into defense mode. It was Arsenal being mature, understanding, as I keep on banging on about, when the right time was to press and harry and close down, and when the right time was to just drop off and be that bit more compact. That was the best way to approach the game, and it involved intelligence, and it involved a level of accuracy in terms of our passing when we did get the ball back to work it forward as early as we possibly could. It also involved a lot of effort and hard work, and everybody making sure they get in the right positions at the right times. And we saw that in an abundance. It should have been 2-0, obviously, in that first half when we won another high turnover. I think it was Declan Rice that won it that time, and Havertz missed the target. And you could see what he was trying to do. He was trying to find the bottom corner. He felt like the sort of central area of the goal had been blocked, and he was trying to find that bottom corner. You could tell what he was trying to do. He was trying to sell a little bit of a disguise in the way that he struck the ball, and he just ended up dragging it wide. And I remember at that point thinking, this could be massive. Like, in the grand scheme of the game, when we look back on it, when we reflect on it, this could be huge. And I was worried about the reaction to it. Not so much from the players on the pitch, because I think, you can tell every time they come in front of a camera and speak that there is an immense respect from Kai Havertz. And what I thought was really interesting, and I don't know if the TV cameras, I beg your pardon, caught this, but Martinelli and Partey in particular went straight over to Kai Havertz because I think Arsenal managed to force a corner like a minute later or something, and both of them jogged over to Kai Havertz. Odegaard too gave him a pat on the back as if to say, "Head up, like don't worry about it. We go again." And I really liked that, and I thought that maybe that miss was going to start to create that frustration within the stands, because we know that there are a lot of Arsenal fans that probably would have reacted in a similar way, regardless of who it was, in terms of, head in your hands, worried, concerned, is this going to come back and bite you in the arse? But, I wanted to see everybody stick with Kai Havertz. And to be fair, the crowd did. And I've said this before, and I'll say this again. And I know my comments on social media last night didn't go down well with a lot of people. But do you know what? I don't care, because if people are going to bang on and say, well, we're entitled to our opinion, well, then so am I. And I don't think it's right when a fan base victimizes a player, a individual. You can criticize them if you don't think they're good enough. You can make the point that you feel that maybe there's an upgrade out there. But while they're wearing the red and white of your shirt, and especially in the case of Kai Havertz, where he is literally our only centre forward right now, you need to get behind him and you need to support him. And thankfully, those within the stadium did exactly that. His name was being sung later on in the game. Mikel Arteta's name was being sung. It was ringing around Emirates Stadium. And it just goes to show, doesn't it, that when there's a few loud individuals online, that doesn't represent the majority of the fan base. That doesn't represent the general mood and feeling around the football club. And one of my big bugbears at the moment is how we're all sort of painted with the same brush. Some idiot online goes and sends abuse to Kai Havertz. Might not even be an Arsenal fan for all we know. And all Arsenal fans are abusive, and all Arsenal fans are this, and all Arsenal fans are that. No, we're not. We're actually not. The connection that we have with this team is incredible. And so many of us feel it. And that's why we're behind this team, even in the difficult moments. And it's great to see those kind of turnarounds in the narrative. And Kai Havertz, I thought, was outstanding yesterday in so many ways. We'll talk about his performance a little bit later on. But look, you go in at halftime, and Man City had a couple of moments in the first half. Obviously, Gvardiol's header, well saved by Raya, onto the crossbar, and we were a little bit lucky with the way the ball came off the bar, because it just evaded Erling Haaland, who was waiting to sort of capitalize. And David Raya had to make a really smart stop, I think, when Symeou got a shot off that seemed to squirm through the crowd, and it meant that he had to just dive down to his right and claw it away. Really, really good save. Brilliant stuff. And we go in at the break, and as I said in my tweet, I think it was, my only regret was that we didn't convert that chance, that we didn't stick a second one in the back of the net, which I think against this Man City side who clearly aren't as powerful as they were 12, 18 months ago, I think it really would have done them damage and probably takes the game away from them at that point. Second half starts, and I'm just watching this back. Obviously, I can't show you, for those of you that are watching, what I'm watching, because, of course, there are copyright rules, annoyingly, and all the rest of it. So I can't talk you through the pictures. But what I can do is I can talk you through kind of what I saw and how I saw it. I'm just loading this up because I do want to have a quick look at the goal that we conceded again, because I had my thoughts on it initially. I watched it back last night, and I still feel the same way, but I want to make sure that I describe exactly what it is that I thought went wrong at the time. And just by looking at the pictures, it just kind of refreshes my memory a little bit. So we've talked about Arsenal's first goal. All good. I'm just watching that David Raya save from Gabriel. Haaland was right on the sort of goal line, wasn't he? Waiting for it to come down. This is just the Kai Havertz miss that I described. He takes a touch just outside the box, makes his way to about the penalty spot. And you can see what he's trying to do. He feels like the near post option has been closed. Ortega sort of leaning that way. There is a defender there covering. He thinks he can just drag it to the other corner. And maybe he puts too much on it, Kai Havertz, and it ends up going wide. Ortega looking very, very sheepish after that. But the tackle from Rice there, the way that Rice senses the opportunity to win the ball back that high up and comes in the side and wins it as brilliantly as that. That was just outstanding for me. Havertz, of course, has to do better. Of course he does. But this was the Man City goal now. This is the goal that I'm talking about. So Foden plays a ball into Symeou. This is a really clever bit of movement from him, because he comes all the way from the left-hand side across the Arsenal penalty area. That's why he's untracked. And when he picks the ball up in the box, he spins brilliantly. And rather than trying to check back inside onto that left foot, which I think everybody expects him to do, he manages to dig out across with the right foot. He just stands it up at the far post. And if I just have a quick look at this again, what you can see is that Erling Haaland is just a little bit sharper. He's just a little bit quicker to react than William Saliba, and he gets across him. And once he's wrong side of you, Erling Haaland, and he gets up off of the ground, it's really, really difficult to stop him. He sort of hangs in the air and heads it back across David Raya's goal and into the back of the net. And at that point, I worried. I did worry. I thought, don't let the momentum swing here. Don't allow what happened with that Kai Havertz chance to start to seep into the mentality. And instead, you've got to react. You've got to make sure that the crowd stay with you. And again, that's where the crowd doesn't reflect what you see online sometimes, because they did stick with the team, every single one of them. I mean, it helps when you go down the other end and score so quickly, obviously. But there is that real connection and that unity again. And Haaland obviously runs off to celebrate. We actually spoke to William Saliba after the game for the radio interviews, and he was acknowledging of the fact that he just lost focus for a second, and you can't afford to do that against Erling Haaland. I thought he was very, very quiet for most of the game. I thought whenever he went up against Gabriel, he was second best. Gabriel has his number. He's as physical, and so that isn't an issue. He's as determined, so that isn't an issue. And he seems to have managed to get inside Erling Haaland's head, which I absolutely love. Psychological warfare in elite level football is a thing, and Gabriel is very, very good at that. When he went over to Saliba on this occasion, he got the better of him. And again, look, I don't mean to throw shade at William Saliba, because I think he's a fantastic centre-half, and he's proven himself for a while now. He's a Rolls Royce of a defender, but I just think sometimes we overlook how good Gabriel is in our want to praise William Saliba, and we should praise him because generally he's outstanding. But I think you can see that, particularly with Erling Haaland, Gabriel is a lot more comfortable in dealing with him. He's a lot better at sort of, turning the game ugly in the way that, Gabriel wants it to be, and trusting in his ability and his concentration levels to come out on top in those duels and in those battles. So, yeah, that was the equalising goal from Manchester City. If I just take it on a little bit, Arsenal then go down the other end, a minute later, and equalise. And it's a really poor pass from Phil Foden. Like, I can see what he's trying to do. He's trying to send it out to the left-hand side. He's trying to create a counter-attack for Manchester City, because in my picture, as I've got it paused, when Foden gives it away, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Arsenal players. 7 Arsenal players squeezed up. And if Phil Foden gets this pass right, if he gets it beyond Thomas Partey, Manchester City are away, and we've got a problem. So you can understand what Foden was trying to do. And we talk about it a lot when we're covering Arsenal, right? We talk about sometimes the need to play those risky passes, because the benefit of those coming off is huge. And obviously there's a risk that you lose the ball. But I still don't think Man City defend this well enough when they lose the ball. The ball comes straight to Thomas Partey, right? And Thomas Partey takes a touch. It's not a great touch, by the way. It's a really heavy touch. And he still gets there ahead of anybody else. That's how much space he's got, right? Then he takes another one to sort of set himself, another one to kind of get it out of his feet. I don't even believe that he ever actually manages to get it out of his feet fully. And nobody in Manchester City blue goes to confront Thomas Partey until John Stones takes the decision of, shit, I've got to go. And so John Stones steps out. He sort of half turns his back on Thomas Partey's effort, and it takes a deflection, which completely catches out Ortega. Do I think Partey's scoring if it doesn't take a deflection? No, I don't. But you know what? We've been devoid of good luck this season. And so we deserved that moment. Our proactivity in the way that we played, our aggression in the way that we played, the maturity that we showed at various times as well, all of that contributing to us having that little bit of luck, I think, on the day. And I talked about the importance of going back ahead so quickly. That was huge for me. That was the point at which the game was taken away from Manchester City. At 1-0, they were always in it. At 1-1, of course, they were in it. Not like they were at 1-1 for very long. But, that second goal killed this Manchester City side. And it's a Manchester City side that in the past you'd have backed to recover. It's a Manchester City side that in the past you'd have looked at and you'd say, never dead. Never. It's not over till it's over. We learned that the hard way at the Etihad earlier this season. Partey wheels away in celebration. He really enjoyed that moment. The North Bank erupted. The stadium went bonkers. And you could just see what it meant to Thomas Partey. Foden's pass, a really poor one. I think he was looking for Marmoush. And then Partey's deflected effort beating Ortega all ends up. The third goal for the Gunners, well, I said that the second one killed Manchester City because I know that a 1-goal lead is not necessarily a lead that says the game's over or that theoretically takes it away from the opposition. But, when you've not played very well, and I don't think Manchester City did. I know some people said that they had, a lot of the ball and they were in control at that stage. I think you can be in control in a football match without having the ball. And I think at all times, Arsenal were in control of this football match. But there was that humbleness, if you like, as Erling Haaland will probably put it, and that awareness and understanding and intelligence being applied that says, guys, we can control this game without fighting tooth and nail for the ball all of the time. And that's really, really important to be able to do that. It's really, really important because, as I said in the previous show, there are probably 2 or 3 games a season where as Arsenal Football Club, you're not happy to, but you're almost accepting of the fact that it's not going to all go your own way. That the idea of you completely dominating possession in the way that you would against an Everton or an Ipswich or a Southampton, that is just too far-fetched. Manchester City are too good a side to go into the game expecting to have 67, 70% of the ball, right? So you have to find a different way. And that's what's really impressed me about Arsenal's recent performances against Manchester City is 2 wins and 2 draws in the last 4. And if you include the Community Shield, that run of being undefeated against Manchester City stretches to 5. So that shows you that we found a way of causing them issues. We found a way of stifling them. So I'm just looking at the third goal now. Declan Rice plays the ball into Lewis Skelly, and he just takes it on, right? The confidence, like we talk about him inverting and we talk about him coming into those positions. The way this passage of play developed, and again, I'm really sorry that I can't show you the pictures. I'll tell you what, though, I can show you freeze frames, can't I? I can show you freeze frames. So let's do that. Hold on a second. How do I do that? Hold on. There we go. If I do that, I can show you the freeze frame, I'm pretty sure, to sort of demonstrate my point. Why wasn't I doing this before? Look, so the way this move develops, okay, you've got Declan Rice, who's come out to the left-hand side. Martin Odegaard has come all the way out to the left-hand side, despite his starting position being on the right-hand side. Trossard's gone over there to kind of accommodate for that. And you can see Lewis Skelly, super confident, right? You're 2-1 up in a massive game like this. But look at his position. Look at his position, right? He is situated on the edge of the box in a really inverted position because he knows what he's supposed to do and he believes in his ability, and not just his ability, but the team's ability to recover from a situation should they lose the ball under these circumstances. So if I take it a little bit further forward, he receives the ball from Declan Rice, and look at his body position here. Look at his body position when he receives the ball. Hold on, I'm clicking on the wrong button. There we go. Look at Lewis Skelly's body position. The ball comes into him, and he knows straight away what he wants to do. There's no hesitation. There's no, putting his foot on the ball. He might be tempted to try and slip Odegaard in down the left-hand side, but no. It's confidence. It's confidence from Myles Lewis Skelly. And that confidence means that he's going to take it on and he's going to go. And he, with a couple of touches, ends up in a position inside the box. But even here, guys, right, having sort of made his way into the penalty area. Is it that one I want? No. I keep clicking the wrong button. Sorry. You can tell I'm not very good at this. Even having sort of got into that position, it doesn't look like there's shots on. It doesn't look like there's any space. It doesn't look like there is any way for him to sort of trouble Ortega here. He's got Trossard to his right. He's got Odegaard to his left. And instead, he manages to just about fashion the space and get the shot off. And he does exactly that. checks it onto the right foot and just hits it towards goal. I probably think Ortega should save it, but he just manages to get a hand to it. The hand not strong enough, though, to divert it away from goal. And it goes in, and the Emirates Stadium erupts. It erupts. The place went absolutely bonkers. And Myles Skelly just wheels away in that kind of nonchalant manner. He knows how good he is. He knows what a big moment that is. And he goes and he sits and he does the Erling Haaland celebration. And that has wound so many people up. It is unreal. So much so that Erling Haaland's dad has quote tweeted a post that the club made saying this team, because he is clearly rattled by it, which is mad to me. It's crazy. But look, everybody's banging on about it, disrespect, etc., etc. Everybody's moaning about it, and so everybody's saying mute the video. Was there? I had it paused. Was there sound coming through? Apologies if there was. I've done that now. Thank you for the heads up. But everybody's like, "Oh, he's copied Haaland celebration. This is bang out of order, etc., etc." Is that the Haaland celebration? It's the Johan Visser celebration to me. Is what I'll say. Is what I'll say to that. But anyway, the Gunners 3-1 up now, and it really is game over at this point, right? It's not going anywhere in terms of the result changing. Arsenal have got this sorted. Arsenal have got the 2-goal cushion that they've been desperately craving since Kai Havertz, of course, missed that chance. And then Arsenal spring a wonderful counter-attack down the right-hand side. And I'll just sort of show you guys. I just want to walk you guys through this one here, because I think this is a really good example of how intelligent Kai Havertz's running is at times. So Arsenal spring a counter-attack, and they're on their way forward. They're charging down the right-hand side with Gabriel Martinelli, right? He's powering forward. John Stones has to go and confront him. Manuel Akanji, and this is a consequence of City trying to get themselves back into the game. We know that they often leave 2 centre-halves really exposed, and that's why we talked about transitions in the build-up to this game. But you watch this back again, okay? And Martinelli's charging down the right-hand side. As I say, Stones has to confront. Akanji's wary of Kai Havertz. A lot of players in this instance would just, if you're Kai Havertz, continue their run straight through the middle, in between the 2 centre-halves. Either you're hoping that you're going to get played in by your teammate, or if your teammate makes enough progress that he can cut the ball back to you. You can see Odegaard just a little bit deeper in the picture as well, getting on his bike because he knows that there might be something there for him. If Martinelli can get there, get to the edge of the box, and Havertz has attracted the attention of Akanji, if Odegaard is the next player there, if Odegaard gets there ahead of everybody else, then there might be a cutback on for him. So the desire, even at 3-1, to want to go and put this game to bed and put Manchester City to the sword is one of the most impressive things about this performance. So if I take it on, right, Kai Havertz doesn't make the run that you think he's going to run. And this is what's really, really smart. He doesn't make the run that everybody thinks he's going to run. Instead, you can see him here. He starts to embark on a different run. He starts to think about how he can overlap Gabriel Martinelli and what that then does with regards to Manuel Akanji. Because Akanji, he kind of has to go with Kai Havertz, right? He can't let Arsenal generate this overload on the right-hand side. Otherwise, he's redundant and he's not doing anything useful defensively. But Akanji's also got to be aware of the fact that Odegaard's winning the race against Kovacic in midfield. So there's so much going on here. There's so much intelligence being applied in this run. So we take it on even further, and Martinelli charges forward. Havertz eventually does make that overlap and then receives the ball. And at this point, Odegaard is in acres of space because of the intelligent run that Kai Havertz has made. Arsenal could look to work it into Odegaard, who would be in a great position to finish. But instead, Kai Havertz, who people have questioned, who people say doesn't have the confidence, who people say shies away from taking on opportunities, he just takes a touch, cuts inside, and just buries it into the far corner. It is a stunning finish. It is a stunning counter-attacking goal. It is Arsenal at their brilliant best. And some people say, and I had this conversation with a friend of mine who doesn't support Arsenal last night when I was on my way home. He said, well, why don't Arsenal play like this every week? Well, because we're not faced, because we're not faced with this space every week. We rarely play teams that want to come at us like Manchester City do. We rarely face teams that leave these holes and gaps. And that's why I really thought that if we were mature in our performance, we could expose the spaces that they leave. But also, this was Arsenal playing the way that Arsenal want to play. When they play with sort of a low block in front of them and they're having to go wide and come back inside, that's not what they want. This is what they want. That's what they're forced to do because there's no way through via their preferred route. So brilliant stuff, fantastic football. Kai Havertz steps inside and finishes it brilliantly. I love this from Robert, who says, when Havertz went wide, I shouted, "Where the F is he going?" And when he bangs it in, everyone around me just laughed. It's amazing, isn't it, how the sort of emotion of things can sort of take over. But when you watch this back, you can see that it's as Wesbird says, a very intelligent bit of play by Kai Havertz. And yeah, it's just, for me to be able to sort of produce that type of finish after you've had that miss earlier on in the game, to want to take that responsibility, even when there's maybe a better option inside of you in Martin Odegaard, if you can work it to him, I think it says so much about much about Kai Havertz's character. And is he the lethal striker that we all want him to be? Is he the finished article in front of goal? No, he's not. Nobody's ever said he was. And I got into a bit of a back and forth on social media last night where people were sort of reacting to one of my posts. So I said, and I'll just read it to you word for word, just to make sure I'm not distorting the story. I said Kai Havertz has been outstanding here. So he missed a chance. It happens. He scored a brilliant goal, got an assist, and worked relentlessly for the entirety of the game. And someone said, but he's still not a top striker. And I said, I don't think I'm saying that he's the ruthless finisher. I don't think I'm saying that. I don't think anyone's saying that. I don't think anyone's saying that Kai Havertz is like Gabriel Batistuta reincarnated. Like, nobody believes he is that potent in front of goal. What we believe is that he's a very useful footballer. And therefore, you have to look at the bigger picture in order to assess his value to this team. And if you watch him miss one chance and say, well, he's crap, forget about it, then you are not analyzing fairly and you're not well-rounded in your analysis. That's the reality of it. I'm sorry. If you turn up and you watch Arsenal every single week and you can't see that the value that this guy brings to the team, then what are you watching? Like, maybe football's not the game for you. And maybe people are going to come back at me and say, oh, you can't dismiss people's opinions. I agree with the opinion wholeheartedly that he could be way more potent in front of goal. I agree with the opinion wholeheartedly that when Kai Havertz runs through on goal, a lot of the time, I'm not sure if he's going to finish it off. Right? That's the truth. I don't know that he's going to finish it off in the way that I used to know that Thierry Henry was, or that even Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang was. Okay? I don't know that with Kai Havertz. But it would be wrong of me to ignore all the other wonderful things he does for this side. And he was a real close contender, in my opinion, for man of the match yesterday. He really, really was. So that was, of course, Arsenal's fourth goal. And Kai Havertz enjoyed that, didn't he? Little knee slide into the corner. He enjoyed it brilliantly. And I just go back to the intelligence of the run in the build-up. And it was, fantastic. Really, really good play from the German. I'm just watching the replay of that going in. Let's have a look then at the fifth goal. Now, the problem with the fifth goal is that when you watch the highlights, and I know that when Sky put these highlights packages out on YouTube, they have to keep them to a certain time length. I know because I've worked on games where they've done that and they've cut out really, I think, vital bits of commentary in the lead up to a goal because they had to stick to a certain time limit. But there's this wonderful pass from the left-hand side from Declan Rice where he just swings it out to the right for Ethan Nwaneri, who's come off the bench. Nwaneri brings this down and he just steps inside Symeou, just enough to create that half a yard that he wants. And he opens up that left foot and he just strokes it into the far corner. It's becoming a bit of a trademark finish, isn't it, this, from young Ethan Nwaneri. Ortega rooted to the spot. Could Ortega have done maybe a little bit more? I think when you watch it back, you will see that, I think had Manchester City been at 0-0, maybe the goalkeeper takes a sort of different view on this. But it's just a brilliant finish. It's just a brilliant finish, man. It's not quite off the inside of the post, but it's as good as in terms of the way he sets it out and it bends back inside. And it just, it was just a nightmare for Manchester City because as if things weren't bad enough, another kid comes off the bench, a 17-year-old on this occasion, and produces a real moment of brilliance that just highlights the amazing work being done at Haaland. Now, I know what some people are going to say. They're going to say that if Arsenal don't sign anybody between now and the end of the window, you are going to say, well, they don't need to because they've got these amazing talents coming through at Haaland. No, I'm not. I still think we need. And I actually said to Mikel Arteta after the game, I asked him, does the fact that you have this level of talent coming through from Haaland and available to you in the first team, does it make you think twice about going into the transfer market? And he said no. He said straight up no. He said, I need to think about their roles in the squad. I need to think about how we give them the minutes. I need to think about not blocking their pathways. But we also have needs that we need to address. And that doesn't change anything. So Mikel Arteta isn't hiding behind the fact that Ethan Nwaneri is doing really well at the minute, playing Bukayo Saka's role. He's not hiding behind the fact that, there's a feel-good factor and a buzz around these young players to the point where it would excuse us from doing any business. We need to do a bit of business between now and the deadline. Like, my opinion on that is not going to change. And we will keep you up to date with what happens on deadline day, throughout the day here on the Chronicles of a Gooner. I'm working from home all day, not going anywhere, so I'll be able to react to any breaking news just like that, at the drop of a hat, which is partly why I cleared my day. So don't let me down, Arsenal, because I could have done something else and got paid. So please. Anyway, but yeah, look, it's going to be a long day. I can imagine there's going to be a lot of frustration online, etc., etc. And I think that is a whole different conversation and a valid conversation. And I don't disagree with people that say, failing to bring somebody in would be a real letdown. But at the same time, you have to acknowledge what we saw yesterday. You have to talk about what we saw yesterday. City beaten incredibly comfortably in the end. Arsenal ruthless when it mattered, controlling even without possession. Arteta understands and the team understands that against that level of opposition, you might have to adapt your approach. That's exactly what we did, and we did it to great effect. We didn't make up any ground this weekend on Liverpool, but when you play City, I think it's just simply about not losing any. And psychologically, it is, of course, a nice lift ahead of the big game on Wednesday night too. After that game, and just imagine we could get the result that we need. We then have a break. And it looks like the club are going to go away and have a little bit of a warm weather training camp, come back stronger, come back ready for the fight going into the real business end of the season. And you never know. You never know. This team have managed throughout this season, even when things have looked really bad, even when there's been internal issues in terms of sort of the way that we play or injuries or whatever. We've also had to deal with stuff that is outside of our control, yet we've managed to stay in contention, which I'm really pleased about. And I know a lot of people were looking at yesterday as the day that Arsenal faded away as a challenger to Liverpool. I know a lot of people were looking at that game thinking exactly that, but we're still there. We might not win it. I don't know. I couldn't tell you, but we're still there. And that's the really, really important thing. Has anybody got any questions or thoughts? Please leave them in the live chat and we'll pick up a few of those before we sign out. Remember, if you're watching us on YouTube, please leave a like on the video, guys. It really, really, really does help more than you could know in terms of helping us get the video out there to more people. If you're listening to the show via the audio platforms, please leave us a review. That massively helps as well. We're on our way to 1,000 reviews on Spotify. If you're a Spotify listener, please leave us a review. It really, really does help. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please leave us your reviews as well, because we lost the load when we changed from one platform to another, which is incredibly frustrating. I've been in touch with Apple Podcasts to try and fix that. Not getting anywhere. I'm just getting messages back from bots, basically. So I'm going to ask you guys to try and help me fix that rather than them, because I think you'll probably be a bit more responsive. But yeah, all of that great stuff. If you're watching us on X as well, please come over to the Chronicles of a Gooner YouTube channel. Subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast platform as well. I really, really do appreciate all the love and support. Let's take a few of your questions then. AJ Envoy says, Harry, with everyone fit and Saka playing right wing, how do we set up to get Nwaneri and Myles Skelly into the team? Seems like a bit of a conundrum. Look, I mean, it's a squad game now more than it's ever been. And I think there'll be ample opportunities for all of them. I think that we've all been desperate to see somebody come in and give Bukayo Saka a bit of respite. And we've almost been obsessed with the idea of going out and bringing someone in to do that. A lot of us felt that Raheem Sterling might be that. I don't think that's materialized. It's fair to say he's been very underwhelming, I would argue, since he's come to Arsenal. And we seem to have stumbled across a solution in Ethan Nwaneri. So much so that I would be looking at I started the window off by saying, I want a forward. I don't care if it's a central forward or if it's a wide forward. I think we need one more player that can contribute to the goal scoring tally overall, and that can provide a bit of respite to our wing options, who I think were looking at that point dead on their feet. If we got a centre forward in, that would be great, because we lost Gabriel Jesus, and someone that could help Kai Havertz is obviously very much needed. But for me, it was of paramount importance, first and foremost, that we added more goals. And it feels like Ethan Nwaneri is stepping up. Now, he's 17 years old, right? And you shouldn't rush. Jacob says in the chat, people forget that he's 17. He will get his minutes. He absolutely will. But it does change my view on the need to go out and sign, a right winger specifically. I think he can also play in the pocket, in the Odegaard pocket, which means that Ethan Nwaneri can be a support player. And he will, in fact, go on to be way more than that. But at 17 years old, to be a support for Saka and for Odegaard is massive, because he could play either of those two roles. I know he wasn't great at Wolves playing in the Odegaard role, but he's got the talent. He'll figure it out. He will work it out. There's no doubt about that in my mind. So it's almost like a bit of a replica of the Phil Foden situation, if you like, where he's come through, and I think that there's a lot of desire to see him progress and to go on and be the main man. But I think we can all accept that at 17 years old, he can bide his time. He doesn't need to be rushed into anything. He doesn't need to be burnt out. That's another thing as well. And he can provide us support in two really, really key areas. So I think that he changes my view. Honestly, I think he's that good on how desperate we are to bring in another right winger. We still need a forward, let me be clear. But now I would prioritize that centre forward, because I think that's where we are the thinnest at the moment, especially with Jesus's injury. Let's take a few more of your comments, of your questions from the live chat. Halo says, Harry, what is realistic to expect today in the transfer market? 50%, 70%, or more chance of something happening? I've got a feeling. And it is nothing more than that. Let me be clear. So please don't start telling everybody that I said this was happening or that was happening. But I have a feeling that Arsenal will do a bit of business today. That they will bring someone in between now and the end of the window. Who it will be, I couldn't tell you. Matthias Tell is the one that we keep hearing they're still in for, but I know we face competition from Manchester United over that. So that's one that, I think hangs in the balance as we record this at 10:20 in the morning. A lot can change over the course of the day, but I think there's a 60% chance that Arsenal do a deal. Don't know who it will be, but that's just my feeling on it. Wesbird says, Harry, do you think that Arteta has instructed the team to play conservatively this season too much, or is it a lack of confidence? Because when we move the ball quickly, we are way more effective. I think it's been a bit of both at times. I think we've obviously recognized ourselves that defensively we're pretty good. And I think naturally as a team, you then start to lean on that when maybe things aren't clicking for you in the attacking third. I think Arteta has at times overcoached, and I've said that. And I think that in certain games, you need to take the shackles off a little bit and let the players go out and express themselves. Whereas in games against the likes of Manchester City, actually overcoaching is fine. And you saw the benefit of it yesterday, because we pressed when we should press and we dropped off when it was right to drop off. So I think having that variation is really, really important. Confidence is a big thing, obviously. And once we went 2-1 up and sort of got back in front, you could feel the confidence sort of transmitting through the players and into the crowd and vice versa. And it was just a really, really positive experience generally. But yeah, we are much more effective when we move the ball in that way, when we play with that intensity, when we're that direct. But we don't always have the ability to do that because very often we are facing a low block against a side that have no interest in coming out. In coming out and attacking us and stepping up to us in the way that maybe Man City would. PJ says, should we sign Watkins now if it means we can't sign Sesko in the summer? Look, I like Benjamin Sesko, but like he hasn't exactly been pushing for the move, which I find a little bit weird. Because like if I was at RB Leipzig, and Arsenal came in for me, I'd jump at that. But he seems so content with staying that it makes me wonder how convinced he is that Arsenal's the right place for him. Now, that might not be the case at all. It might just be that he's given his word to RB Leipzig and that he values his own development above anything else. And he thinks that he's going to get more minutes there and more opportunities. And that if he does another half a season there, he'll be better equipped to then cope with the move when it eventually comes about. But look, I like both players. I like both players. And I think I've said it when we were linked with Watkins in the first place. Like I feel like Watkins is more of a sure thing. I know he's a lot older. But if you're looking around the striker market and you are not convinced by any of the options out there, would signing a Watkins, who I think is a sure thing, and having him lead the line for the next 2.5, maybe 3 seasons, would that be so wrong? Because the market could look very, very different once you get to the end of that period, in which case you can go in and maybe get a player that you're more convinced on than you are on Benjamin Sesko. So I like both players. I'm happy with either of them. And if we got Watkins in between now and the deadline, I'd be delighted. Don't think it's going to happen, but I'd be obviously delighted. Steve says, Harry, why can't we offer Partey a 1-year contract with an option for a further year? I thought Thomas Partey was outstanding. That was the sort of textbook number 6 performance from Thomas Partey. He's much better when he plays there. He's much better when he's got the right midfield around him. There have been times where he's looked really off it this season as well. And that's why I'm kind of in two minds about the whole contract thing. But I wouldn't be surprised if Arsenal did offer him another year because he might not take it because he might get a better offer and he might get a more lucrative offer, which at this stage of his career he feels he has to take. But I just think, yeah, he was outstanding yesterday, wasn't he? He was outstanding. Lots of questions about who we might sign between now and the deadline. I've kind of set myself up for that, haven't I, by telling you that I think we're going to do something. And the answer is, guys, I have no idea. I have no idea. Jid says, do you think there is a lack of appreciation on how we've played well with so many injuries? We've had so many injuries this season, and yet somehow we've only lost twice all season. I do. And I think because we've raised the bar in terms of what we now expect from Arsenal, it's very easy, isn't it, to get lost in the idea that anything less than perfection is completely unacceptable, when actually you should look at the context and actually you should look at what Arsenal managed to do. Are we where we want to be? No. Are Liverpool a little bit too far ahead for my liking? Absolutely they are. But all we can do now is be there. And I think there are signs that this team will be there. They'll be there or thereabouts. We've got a great chance in the Champions League. I don't care what people say about our European pedigree. This is a very, very good team, and therefore we have a very, very good chance of succeeding. In a way, I think European football kind of suits us a little bit better as well, because we're really good at the back. We don't give a great deal away. We have a set piece threat, which I think a lot of teams on the continent generally struggle to deal with. And of course, when teams do come out and take the game to us, we've got what we saw yesterday, which is that ability to tear them apart on the break as well. So, yeah, I'm really enjoying it. Look, there are people out there who are saying, oh, Arsenal are embarrassing. They're celebrating this win as if it means that they're going to win the title. Guys, we beat a side that have had the better of us for so many years by 5 goals to 1. We've absolutely thrashed them. We've had an 18-year-old venture forward from left back and score a cracking goal. We've had a striker that everybody seems to malign all the time score an assist. Declan Rice, who people say can't pass, has managed to produce 2 wonderful assists. Martin Odegaard's got back on the score sheet. And then we've brought a 17-year-old off the bench who scored an unbelievable goal to put the icing on the cake and make it Arsenal 5. Yes, you heard that right. Arsenal 5, Manchester City 1. You can never deny this team's fight, this team's togetherness. And I love that connection is there in the stadium as well. And sometimes, and I know that there are so many people out there that would love to be able to get to the games that can't. But sometimes I think if you're not there, and this is not a slight on those people or a criticism of those people, I know how difficult it is. I know that some of you live on the other side of the world, which means it's not like it is for me, get in the car for 20 minutes and there I am. I understand that it's very, very difficult for you guys. My message to you would be keep supporting the team the way that you are. Keep loving the team the way that you are, and putting out that sort of positive energy. But please don't be fooled by what you read and what you see online at times, because there's a very loud minority who will make you think, if you listen to them, that everything that Arsenal do is wrong, that Arsenal are crap, that Arsenal are useless, that Arsenal cannot compete with the very best sides. Well, yesterday they showed that they can. And even in adversity, even with all the rubbish going on in the background, people demanding that they sign someone between now and the deadline closing, etc., etc., this team have got it within them to fight, and have got it within them to bounce back from setbacks, and to make sure that even when the biggest and the best come to town, they're going to go toe-to-toe with them, and they're happy to and comfortable to beat them. And that is, for me, the big sort of takeaway. Look, let's see what's going to happen with the deadline. We will, of course, keep you across that on the Chronicles of a Gooner podcast throughout the day. So you might see another random episode dropping at some point. But hey, we want to keep our finger on the pulse as best as possible. Before I go, though, I just want to remind you guys that this video is partnered with Stocks FC. Stocks FC is the platform on which you can buy and sell stocks in your favorite players. My portfolio taking a nice little boost, making some profit on Brian Mbeumo. I've got Kai Havertz in there, who's going to see his value increase, I think, over the course of the next few weeks, because he's I'm backing him to have a really strong end to the season. Gabriel Martinelli's turned things around a little bit, and his stock is looking much more healthy. I did invest in Bernardo Silva. I'm wondering if that is ever going to turn around. I thought that, yesterday might be a starting point for that. We haven't seen it. I've also got Ben White in there because he's not a million miles away from coming back. And I think when he does come back, you'll see his value, and you'll see that increase in the shape of his stock. Remember, Stocks FC are supporting the Chronicles of a Gooner YouTube channel. You can claim your 5 free stocks by scanning the QR code in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, or by clicking the link in the description below. I just want to emphasize Stocks FC is not a get-rich-quick scheme. Only invest if you can afford to invest. Only play it if you can afford to play it. Please do not throw a load of money into it that you can't afford to lose. It is a game. It is great fun. I'm really enjoying it. I'm watching my portfolio fluctuate in terms of its value. I'm trying to think what the next move should be. I'm trying to think about what the best way to approach the next few weeks is, etc., etc. I'm constantly checking the prices. I'm constantly checking what other players who I don't have in my portfolio are going for. But it is not a get-rich-quick scheme. And please do not throw any money in there that you can't afford to. If you can and you want to have a bit of fun and get involved in the game, get hooked like me, go for it. Stocks FC, we thank them so much for their support of the Chronicles of a Gooner YouTube channel. Right, I am going to love you and leave you all. Thank you so much for joining me bright and early on this Monday morning, a lot earlier than we normally go live, but I wanted to get the Man City reaction out there as early as possible, in the hope that later on in the day, we're going to clear some time for some transfer talk. We'll see. Who knows? See you all on the next one. Until then, take care of yourselves and have a great Monday. Goodbye.